title has to deal with reinvention of a very traditional organization, because we talk of education. And if you know the German word, the English lecture is a bit different. Vorlesung is something they did 400 years ago. They took a book and read their scripts to the students, and they still do it today, more or less. There are some new ways and MOOCs and blended and online learning stuff, but they still are Vorlesung. So we're talking about a very traditional, that's where we are, a very traditional organization. And the thing you see right here is it doesn't look like a very traditional organization. It shouldn't look like, at least, because it's something like a Windows 8 Kacheln, we say in German. I don't know what you say in English to these. Some new photos, some round spots in there, a new name, etc., etc. I'm going to come to this later on. But we're talking about this organization. It's a very traditional university. It's one of the main houses of our university, based in Leipzig. And you see here, it is actually a classical building. Looks like a bit neo-Italian. Students running around, going to their class, coming back. Actually, nothing special to it. It has a long, long history. I'm going to come to that. It started in 1898. I'm going to jump in now into the year 2010, because we're talking about change here. I could talk about HHL. That's not my topic. Talk about change and reinvent of a very traditional, very old, we would rather say very traditional business school in Germany, management school. And of course, Andreas Pinkwart and I, the new executive management team, we were called in 2010 in order to turn around the situation, because the situation was that the school was losing money at a quite high speed, which is in itself a problem for a business school, which is supposed to be knowing how to deal with money, among other things. But then if you compare us to other business schools like Harvard, etc., there are some major historical changes I will show you later on in our history, or to other histories, that result in the fact that we don't have a fund, that we don't have a huge amount of money we can draw interest upon. That's a problem. So we have to change the organization in a way that it refinances itself. That's quite easy if you talk at University of Applied Sciences in Germany. They're all making money, more or less. They should at least. But it's very tricky, very difficult. And it does not exist until today, not even one, if you talk a university in Germany. Universities cost money. They don't earn any. It's absolutely, and I think it's not impossible, it's very, very difficult to reach it because of the high reason of research, the high level of research where they're supposed to be. So back in the summer of 2010, Andreas Pinkwart and I came in, and of course the very classical first thing we did, and this has nothing to do big with any specific, is a SWOT. Of course we did, because we wanted to look at the organization. Where are we right now? Where was the organization? And I'm not going to go into the SWOT details. I mean, we talk about, I think we were strength. We were quite good in teaching, and we had good students. Weaknesses, very small university, way too small in research. Opportunity could be some, okay, we had the Bologna reform, so many new bachelor students were coming in. We were only teaching since 115 years master students, so could be things like that. Threat is big competition in the market, etc., etc. So we had a long discussion with the board, and we said, we definitely want to make a change, and we want to create a change story. And the point is, we created a change story, and we wrote it down. It took us about half a year to conceptualize it, more or less. We started then in April 2011. Once we started, we realized, okay, we knew a lot of things when talking to some people. They told us a lot of ideas, and we saw some things. But once in office, things look a bit different than being on the outside, excuse me to the consultants. But once in office, it's usually different than if you're just consulting. And so we needed another half a year to 1 year, to rewrite and to realign it, change story, and at the same time do the change. And I come back to this aspect of time and speed in our case, because of losing money. Think of an organization losing money constantly each day. You got to change quickly, otherwise you're probably not there anymore once the change is realized, which is also a problem. You should, and then we had to, of course, change quickly, and then we had to take with us, and that was the biggest problem still until today, with us the people in the organization, because of course education is all about people. We don't have any machines. We have some boring computers, we have stuff, but it's all about people. It's students, it's professors, it's staff, it's all about people. So we wrote we call it a future concept because it's a long-term concept, and we gave it a name. And we wanted to give it a name with a verb in it, innovation. We didn't say innovation, we thought innovate, because that's something the school stood for since 1898, because the discipline of Betriebswirtschaft was invented in our school. What do you say in English? Business administration. In German, it was invented in our school, nowhere else. It was Eugen Schmalenbach, our first people who invented it and then brought it over to Cologne, etc., but it was invented there. Not a lot of people know this, which is not a problem, but it's a fact. So then we have a long history. And why did I put up the history? Because in 1898 we had some money. We wouldn't have any problem in change process if we had that money allocated in 1898 to us, drawn on interest, bought some Coca-Cola shares or whatever, just went up all the 115 years, beautiful, lots of money. No way. German history went different, as you know. We had the First World War, we had a huge economic crisis afterwards. We had the 1917 standing. Why is that? HHL was founded 2 years before TUC and 2 years before, I think, Stanford something. They were all founded about 1900, we were 1898. And at that time, in the years of 1910, 1915, we were one of the most international schools. Now, how's that? In Leipzig. Okay, center of Germany, that's true. But why were we international schools? Because many of the students of Russia, especially St. Petersburg, were coming to us to study business administration, which was a first academic discipline. There were 5 months after us, Vienna University was founded, then Handelshochschule Vienna, then Nuremberg was founded, Handelsschule Nuremberg, they were all got, and later in universities. And so they came to us, but in 1917 it all stopped. No student came anymore from St. Petersburg, you probably imagine why. So we had a major income in break there, because they were already privately financed. It was founded as a privately financed school. Then World War II, with all the consequences, came. Then we were in Eastern Germany. We still are in Eastern Germany, but at that time was an own state, more or less. Lost again all the money they tried to accumulate in the years from 1923 onwards. And there was, of course, no money accumulated then from 1946 until 1990, not a lot at least no stock. Then they started again collecting some money with a nice sum of €1 million. That is, of course, a very nice sum, but it's nothing to spend, and especially nothing to live on. Think of the interest rates we have right today, right? It's nothing. So the problem is we had a strong history, you could say strong history, a very disruptive history, which made us a bit tricky on the financial side, which brings us into the problem that if we make a change right now and we're losing money each day, if we have to better change quickly, because the money we once got in 1992 from the state, it was a loan in order to finance the first 5 or 10 or 15 years until the school was running itself, is somehow terminating at a certain point. And we're not sure the state going to give us again money because we're a private business school, supposedly know how to manage, especially financial things. We put down the concept, we called it 125. I'm going to go back one second here. 125, not because we wanted to need 125 years, but we thought beginning in 1898, plus the 125 years, 2023, some kind of a long-term concept, more or less 10 to 12 years, but if you talk about major changes in educational systems in Germany, you need time. At least you need the scope. It needs to be the scope that you want to have a thorough change, no quick wins. That was one of the major things we have. That is, of course, a change issue. Sometimes, and we have, for example, the financial member of the board of Porsche in our supervisory board, he told us in the last meeting, well, if you have any problems on short term, why don't you make any short-term wins? For example, just take in some more students. You have a lot of applications, fantastic. You have 140 applications, high-ranking, good people for about a class of 30. Just take in 35. We say, no, for academic reasons, quality reasons, rather 25. I said, no. Take in 35, quick win, 10 more times 30,000, 300,000, good one, no problem this. Okay, but you should have problems, maybe, if you take in bad students, not bad students, but not as good students as we wanted to have, in the medium term or long term, because once they leave our school and are in jobs, the companies might be disappointed because it's an HHL student, supposed to be one of the top schools, in management, leadership, and then they're not performing. So it'll be a problem for the school in 5 to 10 years, or 5 to 6 or 7 years. So we have this discussion, and no quick wins was a big discussion, also bachelor programs. As you know, money can earn school with master students, but can a lot more earn school with bachelor students coming directly from school. You don't teach only 22. There's no class in Germany teaching 22 bachelor students. I don't know, none. The smallest is probably 100 or 120, but still one professor in one room. So you make a lot more profit out of it. So we could have said, after 115 years of teaching, well, we're going to make a quick win and get in some bachelor students. We got a good renommee, a good brand. There will be some coming. But that changes, of course, completely the outcome of the school, research-wise, etc. I'll come back to that later. So just quickly through these, we set some goals within the Innovate 125 concept. By the way, we put it in 2 pages, just 2 pages. 1 page, second page, turn around, that was it. That was the very short way of trying to communicate. Does it work? Yeah, here we go. We talked about, of course, one of the objects, I just come to that, the structure of the school. It's just an extract, as you know. Of course, it's not the whole thing. We talked about stable finances, and we talked about, if it moves, here we go, about quality aspects, quality growth strategy, as I just mentioned, and about number of students. And the point is, we didn't have really the time, we don't have the time for the 2023 because the money is not going to last that long. So what we have to achieve is that in 2015-16 we have to be break even, not to lose any money anymore. At least we don't have to make money at that time, but we must not lose any money anymore. If you start in 2010 with the SWOT analysis and have about half a year to get through to it, and then start as an executive manager in 2011 and have only 2.5 years to turn around the situation of an academic institution with a lot of shareholders, excuse me, Carolina, who are quite proud of their chair and actually don't want to move at all, and come to that in specific detail because that's a very challenging point here. And the school defines itself overall through its academic quality, and that's what it is all about, just like in the opera. The opera defines itself, must define itself through its artistic quality, nothing else. Everything else is the outcome of it. The first thing is the artistic quality, same thing academia, the academic quality, that's the foremost, and everything else follows. 2.5 years are not a long time. So the point here, this is why I show this. We have only actually 3-4 years in order to turn around and then to be able to go on to 2023, because once the money's gone in 2016-17, there'll never be a 2023, even if the concept fantastic to reach it. So what we did, we put in 6 points. We put in one vision, 2 objectives. It's not 1 to 6. It's really one vision, 2 objectives. We talk about 3 principles, 4 programs. You see, it's some of creating a story. 5 academic groups and 6 sub-goals. We're really working with this. And by the way, we just want to mention one point here. I didn't hear it today, and it's probably the reason that I didn't hear it is the point of repetition. When we started in 2011 to create this Innovate 125 future concept, we presented it to one group, to another group, to a third group. Then we came back to the first group. We presented it again to the first group because they forgot all about it. It was just 3 months ago. We came back to the second group, to the third group, fourth group. Then came back to the second group. We presented it again to the second group. They forgot all about it. That was really a challenge we didn't imagine at the first point, but we really have to repeat until today, even with our, professors, they still don't remember the major points of our, and it's not too big, to be honest. It's not a thorough book, it's very small, the major points of our concept. We had a faculty retreat, and one of the professors asked, a very renowned professor, clever guy, I like him a lot, said, we have a vision? Which one? Okay, so that was just half a year ago. We were already 3.5 years on the run, right? Okay, sometimes, maybe we just didn't communicate it correctly, could be. So we talk about one vision. What is the one vision? Just to unite it all, it's the Leipzig leadership model. We're a school who teaches leadership, management, and especially leadership. Many schools do that. It's one of our profiles. There are some more to it. And the Leipzig leadership model lies at the heart of all our thinking and work. This is what we try to, I'm not going to go into details here, but this is the vision we're going to try to follow up and we try to communicate. We talk about 2 objectives, I told objectives, which are be in the top 10 in Europe as a school and be in the top 10 in the world regarding the master management program. We're at number 9 right now, coming up to 38, so that's quite fine. We go with that. We're 23 in schools of Germany, in Europe as a school. That is some way up, but not the way we wanted. But we want to have some objectives where we could measure ourselves. Who measures us? Financial Times London. So we said to communicate to the board, somebody got to measure it, got to be outside of Germany. So take a ranking. You can think of ranking whatever you might. You're right to think that. But still, you got to have some kind of measurement against whom you work or with whom you work. 2 objectives. 3 principles. You see them here. Respectiveness, responsibility, effective responsibility, and entrepreneurial thinking. We have 4 programs, which means MBA, MSc, Master in Management, Master in Business Administration, PhD program. We got a big PhD program, executive education, no bachelor students. That was a big discussion, as I told you, especially on the money side. A lot of shareholders said, wait a second, you're losing money, $1 million a year, you take in another 75 bachelor, you have enough room there, 2 teachers, leave your masters, but go up to the bachelor, etc., etc. It was an easy calculation, but there was a very fundamental thing of what to do and what not to do. This is 4 programs, very important. We stick with our 1898 vision, stay with the master and be there at the top of the group. 5 academic groups, I come back to that. That is very difficult. Talk about my chair as my castle. And then sub-goals, we'll come to that. And this is right now, the nice picture I always like is this one. What is this? Obviously, it's a castle. And somebody playing within it. I'm not going to say our professors look alike like this, but that is a German, very famous German saying, my chair is my castle. I don't even know how you say in German, but that's what we always use the phrase, meaning my chair is myself, my professor, 2 assistants, maybe 3, maybe 4, big funded, secretary, nice, weißer Lattenzaun, nice, small fence around it, beautiful garden. Sometimes I step out of it to see somebody, maybe a student, talk to a professor. Then I go back again, start thinking, do my things. Better not to be disturbed. Please not my thoughts, my books, my ideas. This is the situation at German universities. It still is, I must say, since 4 or 5, in Leipzig 600 years. That situation by law. Academic freedom, Article 5, Paragraph 3, German constitutions, scientific thinking is free, absolutely free. 0, full stop. Whether you think at home, in the university, you think together, you think alone, you think with your students, against your students, no matter, is free. Same thing for the arts. At the same discussion when running an opera, artistic work is Kunst und Wissenschaft, Kunst, art is free in Germany. We are very happy that it is like this, so we can criticize systems, etc. Art is free. Same thing for academic thinking is free. Now, if you have this academic thinking is free, and you have this castle idea, it's a bit tricky to change this. How do we do this? And the situation was this. It's not a nice picture, but it shows what it was. We were a way too small institution. We had 1 chair for innovation, 1 for strategy, 1 for logistics, marketing, finance. You could never make any relevance in the European, let's not even talk of a worldwide research or teaching, not even in Germany probably. For Cologne has about 40 chairs for finance. I mean, imagine Cologne, University of Cologne, fantastic university. We have 1. What's this? I mean, he's a clever guy. He does M&A, very good finance chair, Professor Schwester, but 1. So he can do nothing in that field. So we said that's, and then we have a lot of centers which are supposed to be taking the academic ideas within the relevant field, rigor and relevance, the idea of a business school within the marketplace. But each professor had its all small center, same persona, that didn't work at all. So we had a year-long discussion, and we took up a trick. We took an academic advisory council from outside, from the US. We invited some colleagues from Georgetown and Tuck School, and 1 famous German ones, and they were our advisory group. And they said, what are we going to do? Are we going to add up another 10 pillars here? I mean, all this thing from all your organizations probably, pillar thinking, not one communicating with the other, everybody's thinking of his own. Some are in the university, some are not, nobody knows. And then we changed, you don't have to read this, just as a picture. If you look at that picture, and it could go on forever, like with another 10, 20, 30 columns there, representing even German university thinking. Unfortunately, it still is like this. It's very difficult to change it by constitution. And if you look at this is more a group, more a faculty, it's not a faculty, more a department structure. It's not a department, but it's what we did is we organized 5 groups. We said, we're going to be strong, try to be strong in international strategy and finance, etc., etc. We're not going to be strong in many other fields. You don't find many fields on here, just 5. But this is what we think our university should be profiling in. And this was very tricky to realize, because once the professors realized within some faculty retreats, they're going to promote a new structure. First, really honest question was, but it's not about me, isn't it? Many professors said so in around faculty. It's a nice structure, but it's not about me, isn't it? I mean, his name was written on there, but it's not about my chair, no? It doesn't change anything for me, doesn't it? I said, yes, it should actually. You should collaborate with your colleagues within your group. You should do research together. You should possibly, have some common ideas, publications, teaching, etc. Then came the academic freedom stuff. Not easy discussion, I can tell you. Although we're a private university, it still applies to us because we're a university in Germany. And in the end, it came out like this. And now they're quite happy with it. It's the same structure, and it shows you just one more thing or two more things. The yellow lines are the program. That means all our students have to run through all those programs, which is not that they can start picking, because the General Management School and the CASM Center for Advanced Studies Management is a new think tank we established, which holds us together, all the groups. Just to show you, change in university is possible, but quite difficult, and has a lot of questions you usually, just like in arts, don't confront in your organizations. You do different situations, but we have those which are, and you have to convince them. Some are still not really convinced, and I must say, must go back one more thing. We now, of course, allocated those chairs, talking about now rooms. One professor, one assistant, secretary, concrete rooms, to one group. If you don't do that physically, what will happen? Probably absolutely nothing. So what we had to do was allocate them physically. That's even worse. They don't like to move out of their room. They like the window and the plants and everything. They're in there for, 15 years or whatever. So we had to say, look, could you please move over to that room, because the colleague is right on that side. So we're now rebuilding the university physically. We're taking away all their keys. They're not supposed to lock the doors anymore, because we're building one floor, 330 square meters, for each of those groups, 340 to about 500. There's only one door locked, which is the main entrance. All the other doors are glass doors. No keys to it, only double secretaries in the front, no own secretaries anymore. I'm very sorry, we have to take out the secretaries. Still your secretaries, but sitting here in the entrance, Open space, no walls, no doors, all of these things, just in order to make them collaborate. In order to meet on the floor, just to have exchange. Oh, what are you thinking about right now? Oh, yeah, you think about that? Yeah, I heard that. That they just start thinking and working together. It now slowly starts to realize and happen, but I can tell you, it takes some time, and some are not really happy about it until now, but they slowly, I think, see the advantages. In the administrative side, it was much easier, of course. We don't have any, wait a second, back there. You don't have any constitutional rights that there must be a library and there must be a very small organization, IT, and because you can just change in academia as well as you can your industries. So we had a very absurd, I must say, organization, because those departments, they were sometimes as big as just half a person, so it was no department at all. But it was then 13 or 14 or 15. We cut them down to 6. That was then much easier. Just to show you, maybe 6 or 7. We grew a bit there, but the problem here was we could make the change quite easily. We just, IT department, for example, just changed the people. We had to change the people, put in new IT systems, but then take the people with us was much more difficult, much more challenging, especially establishing new processes within the departments. That was a challenge until today. Coming down to the 6 sub-goals, we said we've got to divide the concept into 6 sub-goals in order to be measured, in order to try to communicate them, because we are at the very high level talking right now, try to communicate them to shareholders, to staff, to students, to alumni. Very important, our alumni, they always care about what is the old school doing, is it running well or not? And they have a lot of ideas, although they're a long time out of faculty, well, that's a problem. So we wanted to have a larger faculty, grow, from 10 professors to 25, but organize them in more or less departments in groups. We have additional classes, coming to that in a second. More students in order to be financed. Half of our finance income is coming from students, half from different research grants, etc. Foundations. We want to have excellent research. We put it down because the research was not really that excellent that we felt it should be for a university. Strong networks, sound financial base. And let's skip through some of those charts. It's like this. If you look here, if the number of classes in 2010 and 11, number of classes meaning MBA classes or master management classes, 20 to 30 people, right? We had about 10 in 2010 and 11. Generate a certain income. 10 classes times about 25 students times student fee, etc. generates an income. We said, this is no way going to work. We're way too expensive as a university, which is okay. Research is expensive, but then we need more income. You can wish income, you can, I don't know, go to the, but that doesn't work. You can go up to Mrs. Quant if you can, we did so, and you can, hopefully she gives us 50 million. They did this before we came, a lot of times, but of course it's not accountable. You can't really count on it, but you know that the money's running out. So we said, we got to grow in class, we want to grow in size, we want to be more significant on the map, so we grow in class. We didn't just enlarge the classes, that would have been one point. Why do you make 25, make 40, make 45, but then the teaching for 45 at a high level is quite different than teaching 25. I don't say it's better or worse, it's just very different, and it's tricky, and you got to be able to do this. Harvard teaches 60 or 70 at a time. They do it quite well, but they have very good techniques. Not every professor is, at that level. And then I strongly believe a 25 class, of course, something completely different they take with us than a 45 or 50 class. So we invented new classes. We went to new locations, and we raised the number of classes from 10 to 20 to 23 probably, meaning rising the number of students from about 350. It sounds small, but it's a lot if you think of personally interacting with them, to 550, and keeping the ratio professor to student 1 to 5, talking about quality. Just one example here, we went into a field of health management. We got a sponsor who studies this. You can study some certain health management, being in general management. We went to Cologne. We start in Cologne now, meaning we move. It sounds like, but it's just Cologne. But if you think of Cologne being 500 kilometers away from Leipzig, it's about there where North Rhine-Westphalia is located, and thinking about going from east to west in a German history sense, not so easy done. Starting up in Cologne. Why going to Cologne? Because all the clients were there. We said, if the clients don't come to Leipzig, we go to the clients. Because as you know, the German industry is just about from Hamburg, Cologne, North Rhine-Westphalia, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, down there. That's where the industry is. That's where Kraus Partner is somewhere, isn't it? You're not here. I think you're somewhere here. Well, Mr. Kraus, there you are. And there's a reason why you are there. And a lot of our clients are also there. So we go to then, we move, not the campus, but the place of study, if you want to Cologne, etc. One very important thing in communication was we reconnected with the alumni chapter. The alumni chapter are our clients, former clients, and the best word of mouth promoters you can ever have if they are happy about you. Because they went through our program. And they are located, that's HHL alumni in Germany, about these places, and there are some in London and New York and Paris, etc. And so what we started is that Mr. Pinkwart and I started traveling, visiting the chapters. Now talking about resistance. When we visit our first chapter, it was in Düsseldorf, I never forget this, in 2011 in June. We came there as a new executive management, just 3 months in office, not knowing really a lot about HHL, but something, having a lot of ideas, not so thorough as you have seen right now, but some. And we went to the chapter, and the chapter said, what are you going to tell us? You don't know what HHL is. You have not studied there, etc., etc. And it was really very critical. We met a lot of resistance. It was just an alumni meeting, for heaven's sake. It was not, it was just an informed, more or less informed. We wanted to inform them, new management, our school, be nice, polite, etc. No way, I was sitting there for 2 hours. Then they started questioning, and it was more like being pressed against the wall, actually. It was not nice questioning. And then we said, okay, now the third part, once we have the speech, you have the questioning, now we come to the informal part, and we went to dinner. We do this every time we visit every chapter every year. And we always go to dinner at 10 o'clock, and that's where the ice broke for the very first time. It was an informal way. We sat 3 or 4 people at a table. Mr. Pink and I, 2 or more, 3 of the HHL school was with us, and we talked openly 2 and 3 hours, and there the ice broke a bit, and they felt, okay, we really try to engage with the school. We try to convince them. Of course, we don't have the time to communicate all this complex, and it's quite complex material in a short period of time, so that everybody can understand at the right point, and we think how it should. And that is a very important thing. We still do it until today. We have it next week in London, the week after in Leipzig, and then we go again in autumn again to Frankfurt and Stuttgart. We always do this, and we're always astonished to see people saying, "Oh, I didn't know at all you had a future concept? Oh, what are you doing there?" I mean, it's absolutely incredible that you really have to repeat and take them with you each time and time and time again. I think we're going to do this for the next 3 years, although we've done it for the last 4 years, actually. 6 times a year, by the way. This is one of the 2 or 3 achievements we've made until now. This is non-endowed and endowed chairs. As a private business school, the chairs should all be financed. That's what you would expect as a taxpayer, and what I would expect as a management. And if I came there, they were unfortunately not endowed. Now that's a problem. You have a chair, professor, rooms running, being paid, costs about $250,000, one of those chairs, up to 300,000 a year, and no money coming in. Professors still sitting there, costing money. Well, that's definitely producing a deficit in the first month. And if you have not only 1, but 5 or 6 or 7 of them, you can imagine how high the deficit at the end of the year is, even when you're halfway decent running with students, because the students are supposed to cover the administrative costs of the whole company, but the chairs, of course, should be self-financed by industry or by foundations, whatever. Now, we fortunately changed that from 10 to 13 until 75%. We're going to change it even more. It's very difficult in Germany to find funding for an existing chair, as you might know. It's just like if you produce opera and you produce a Traviata and you go to Volkswagen, you say, we've produced a new Traviata. Don't you have, let's say, 50,000, beautiful picture and beautiful singers? What do you think? And he says 2 things. First of all, you're financed quite well by the state through the state by my tax money. And second of all, Traviata is nothing new. There's about 375 Traviatas in the last 5 years with beautiful singers all over Germany and Europe, and don't count the US. So you get a problem. And that's the same thing if you come with a professor who's been there for 16 years and you say, well, let's finance him. He said, well, he's been there for 16 years. He must have been financed somehow. Why don't you just keep financing him? I mean, what is it my business? If we talk about financing, maybe we take a new professorship. Okay, that's fair deal. New professorships do help. They are in here, but of course we have the old ones, excuse me if I say so, not financed as well, so we had to work on that. That worked. And the other one is the income from the students, very important, going up to 50% from 11 to 2015, and should be above 5 million, then we should be halfway fine. One of 2 last pictures is here talking about our premises. When we started in 2010, we had 2 premises. One is, unfortunately, this doesn't work. One is this long house where it's written the Red Point Allee, and the other one was somewhere, it's just Google Earth, it's just looking from above. And the other one was in the inner city, rented apartments, and now we have, fortunately, thanks for the state of Saxony, being rent-free, granted 2 more premises on our main houses so that we can enlarge and really build an academic house, etc. This is what I talked to you about. This was really driving us. And this is really driving us strongly. And this is a major problem we see in our change process. I think we academically and by thinking quite far, we try to engage the company and the people and the professors within the change process strongly. But at the same time, we always, unfortunately, have to say, look, we're still running in deficit. We got to have reduced funds. We got to be careful that within the consolidation phase and growth phase, we're not losing money anymore because we must break even in 2015. That's, of course, probably common in some organizations of you, but it is if you're an organization which has been losing money for 20 years, and they were used to work like this, because the money was somehow there. Money came out of the plug. So money was just there. They thought so. It's a major change in the organization, in the thinking, and it took us 2 to 3 years to get through, and we don't have thick layers because we're just rather small, about 150 people. It took us 2 to 3 years to really get into their minds that with all of them, the help of all of us, we are going to be better off if we do reach the break even, because then we're academically free in the end. So this is what we have here, the time and the money issue between the years 2011 and 2014 in order to reach 15 break even. And then I'm just going to go through those things. We have to, of course, tell the story on the outside to our stakeholders. We had a long process. This is by the water. This is our university on the water side. And we had different brands. We had different types of names as a school. We had different colors. We had different slogans, all mixed up. We then changed them. This was where we came from. And the right-hand side was 1898, so the very old merchant. By the way, a man, of course. I mean, try to attract women with a man on there. So many problems we have there, very traditional thinking. This is 1992. Can anybody tell me what the dots outside the box should be? Did they just miss it graphically? I mean, did they just make a mistake? What happened? It has a real reason for it. You probably don't know. I didn't know it. Just had a meeting with some marketing people. They also didn't know, but it troubled me a bit. But in 1996, they reinvented the sign and said HHL, Leipzig Graduate School of Management, which is good. And they had 3 dots. One is inside, it's a student inside the university, and the other 2 are the students outside the university, meaning that we as a school take care of them even when they're outside university. That was in 1996 in Germany quite a revolution. That was something new. And that stood for career service. We say career service site today. Today it's all over the place. It's common stuff. Even state universities do have career service departments, more or less good. But that was new, and that was the idea of it. A bit complicated sign, but a good idea. And this came out now in a huge branding process in 2014, 13. Handelshochschule Leipzig, we still got our own name, but we're not named like this anymore. We made a name change. The institution has a new name. It's called HHL Leipzig Graduate School of Management because we're an international school. We can't walk around with Handelshochschule Leipzig. I've been in China and Beijing, try to explain what a Handelshochschule is. You get all mixed up. I mean, you're definitely not going to come on the end that you're a university-like management school. You're not. Handelshochschule is, if you try to translate it, it's terribly difficult. So we said we're going to lose that, but we keep our brand. HHL is strong, that's our wording, and L is for leadership and for Leipzig. That was the idea, at least, to it. This was the old homepage, quite nice, but a bit overloaded. This is a new one, a bit more clear. Of course, some with some new points in Cologne, etc. We invented a claim, because we need it for our communication outside to tell in very brief words what we are, what we stand for. Excellence for innovative leadership. I tried to explain this a bit where this came from. And I must say, when I worked on this small speech, this was the most difficult picture. Because there were many more aspects to it. And I don't think they are the most important things. Fortunately, I got resistance in here. I'm quite happy that I got this. Because it was quite a trick. And I think I talked about stakeholders, growth, time and speed aspect, high quality, meaning research and teaching, academic freedom as a, not a downside, but as a fact that we have and we want to keep and we want to cherish. Bringing in high motivation. And at the same time, very simple thing, think of German history. Andreas Pinkwart and I'm coming from Lübeck, Andreas Pinkwart's coming from Düsseldorf, 2 Western guys coming to a very traditional East German management school, telling them how to run it. Imagine the staff is not all West German there. It's just, in 2011, it's still a task of communication and being honest and being authentic and trying to take them. We have absolutely different backgrounds. We still have, I must say that's still the fact. We get along very well, but there were some resistance also coming out of this. There were. And so how do you surmount it? How do you build up a team? We try to. Last thing is communication and change process. We thought of many different ways, and I don't think we made it all correctly, probably. Many different ways how to integrate the administration and the academia. The academia is a bit easier because it was 12, 13 professors. That was okay. In academia, it was only the problem the professors didn't tell the assistants what we taught with them. So then the assistants came back to us and said, what did you tell with the professors? Never mind, that's a different problem. But the administration was easier, we thought. But then it was much more difficult because we had meetings like these, 50, 60 people, and told them our concept, asked for ideas, developed it in smaller groups with them, and asked them and didn't get a real feedback. Some of them had the courage to do, and some unfortunately not. And we made a mistake sometimes, thought, okay, if they don't ask, they don't say no, it's probably okay. But of course it wasn't. And the informal communication was strong, and so then we went into the direction of informal communication ourselves and tried to open ourselves up with late dinners and evenings, whatever, and then we, I think, slowly more and more got the message across and got their message across to us, especially, and then tried to solve the problems. But we're still in the process, I must say. I'm going to cut here. Thank you very much.